Oh, hey there. Welcome to the Ope-Eh three-way pro wrestling podcast. This is Brandon, joined as always by my good buds, Donny and Pierce. Fellas, we're into late October. It's rounding into spooky season. How we feeling?
Everything is garbage.
I'm spooked by WWE's ticket prices.
Yeah. Fuck those
Talk
ticket
about
prices.
terrifying.
Oh my God.
Yeah, never mind Terrifier this year, boys. You ain't going to see nothing that's going to scare the shit out of you more than what they're trying to peddle for pre-sale. Fucking A.
My God.
For those who don't know, WWE had pre-sale tickets available for WrestleMania if you had a code, and the prices they didn't show all the seats available, just specific sections in pre-sale, and even at the higher mid-level tiers, it was close to $1,000 for 2-day tickets, and it was just a bit ridiculous.
Yeah, so I'm going to get on my soapbox here for a minute, for 3 minutes, if you guys don't mind. So, we all met WrestleMania last year. We all bought tickets individually. We didn't know each other existed. Now we do, and that's great. And we're like, hey, it would be cool if we do Mania again and get tickets together so we could have a fun experience together. It's like that sounds like a great idea. So we have these grandiose plans to, get some WrestleMania tickets this year. And I had gone the last two WrestleManias and I've done the combo ticket both years. And I was just looking back at the price that I paid for the combo ticket last year, and for the pair, for myself and my partner, it was $235 USD for both tickets for both nights. It sounds really good, right?
Canadian, that's about 6 pints of maple syrup and I believe a hockey stick.
Nah, our dollar's dog shit. It's actually like $400 or $500, but even still, it's like a 2-night event at a premium event for the thing that you're interested in. It's not
Very
that bad.
reasonable.
Very reasonable, right? So we're like, okay, this is Vegas. It's going to be more expensive. It's a long weekend. So, stuff might be a little bit more expensive for that too. So let's see how she goes. So we booked the hotel. Luckily, I got these guys like a good spot for a hotel, really cheap. We got ourselves one that was a little bit more expensive, actually a lot more expensive, but still good for what we're getting. So I was like, okay,
compared to the normal price you could have paid, Donnie, you paid very, very nicely.
Oh yeah. I got a suite at the Cosmo for $200 a night. When I say suite, I mean full wraparound balcony outside and everything. It's a nice. I think that the quoted price for the booking that we have is like $3,500, but we got it down to like $1,200 for the 5 nights. But anyway, then you guys got a killer deal. But
yeah.
But so anyway, so we go on. And we're like, okay, well, let's see how this pre-sale thing goes. And if anyone was paying attention last night, you see that there was a pre-sale actually yesterday on the 22nd of October, if you're not listening, on the day of or day after. So yeah, the 22nd of October.
Specific to Raiders season ticket holders.
Yeah,
though.
Because the ultimate audience to watch the biggest wrestling show of the year is Raiders season ticket holders, because that's brilliant. Let's open it up to the Raiders season ticket holders first, and not the people who fucking go to your shows on an annual basis. No, that's not room for scalping at all now, is there? Anyways, we look at the tickets for those, and the prices are, for nosebleeds, they're about $400 each, which is more than double. About triple of what I paid for Philly 6 months ago. So that kind of sucks. But it's like, okay, well, you know what? If we got to pay $400, we got to pay $400. Fine. Today rolls around. First thing they offer is aisle seats. And the aisle seats, they don't even have the aisle seats up in every section. The cheapest one is $440. But you can only buy a pair. You can't buy 4. You can only buy 2. Because apparently the aisle doesn't extend past 2 seats. Anyways, I don't know who designed this shit. This doesn't work. If there's 4 of us going, we can't have 4 people in 2 seats. As much as one of you guys could probably have me on your lap, it's not really what we're looking for here.
Dibs.
Damn it.
Sorry, man. Crushing dreams here, just like mine were crushed earlier. But it's like, okay, do I pay for these now and try and hope that works out, or do I wait? And do I wait and see, like, okay, well, we saw those $400 tickets available yesterday. Are they going to make their way back today? Well, the answer is no. Not a single seat was available in the 400 section at all in the initial launch of the pre-sale, which sucks because now you're looking at the cheapest seat that was unobstructed that I could find, because those $440 tickets were gone right away for 4 consecutive seats, was $550. And those are like parallel to the stage. So you don't even get to see the stage properly. You're 3 rows from God. So it's like, well, this sucks. So decided, no, it's not really looking good. So you just hold off a little bit longer and say, okay, well, let's see what happens when they release more seats in the 400 section rather than getting in the 300s and 200s or whatever, which were upwards of $1,000+. So pretty discouraged, get off, get back to work, because they release these tickets when normal people have jobs. But anyways, I go on after work and I'm like, oh, I wonder if any more tickets become available. And lo and behold, tickets did become available. Funny enough, there was rows of tickets available in the 400 section. 410 I was looking at. So that's like opposite corner of the stage. So you can see everything, but you're really fucking far away, but you can see everything. So it's like, okay, let's see how much those are.
And to preface for where he's saying, in these stadiums, there realistically is not a bad seat in the house, especially because they're going to have that giant screen. You're going to be able to see the ring. You're going to be able to see the stage. You're going to be far away, but you're still going to be having a good time.
Yeah.
So seating really doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, you'll get the bright light in your eyes and your sectional chant, turn the lights off, like what happens every fucking year at WrestleMania. But,
the lights are really not that bad.
No, I wasn't bothered by them either year that I've gone, and I've sat in like nosebleeds or whatever. So I'm like, all right, let's see how much these tickets are. Now you guys know because I showed you the screenshot, but what would you normally have guessed how much those tickets would have been, knowing that it was the day one of the pre-sale, they were in the 400s, they were far away? Like, do you have any like reasonable guesses on how much those tickets would be?
Realistically, at most, I would have said $350.
Maybe just slightly higher because you're basically paying the Vegas tax and it's in a newer stadium. But right, like it's nothing exorbitant. You know?
Yeah. Let's say $300, $400, maybe even $500. Okay, whatever.
Sure.
Ticketmaster decides to be the fucking dicks that they are and enable their surge pricing bullshit, which I'm pretty sure is banned in some areas of the world. You guys, one of you had mentioned
illegal in
Arizona.
It's that and scalpers, but yeah, they made it illegal in Arizona. It's called the Swift Law or something like that.
Yeah. These tickets for 1 2-night ticket, 3 rows from God in Vegas, before fees and taxes, was $1,750 US. Then you tack on taxes. Then you tack on their $400 service fee, which their service fee is basically, we're going to rip your dick off and shove it down your throat.
That's a good time.
So for 2 tickets, I was like, you know what? I'm going to put them in the cart and see how much they are. God knows I will never buy them because my partner will chop off my dick and shove it down my throat had I bought them. It was, and I'm going to say this exact amount
and
here.
Me and Brandon would probably do it to you too.
Yeah, I would.
I mean, at that rate, you're getting a discount.
I would hope so. I want to make sure I say the exact dollars and cents amount. For 2 tickets in section 409, row 9, seats 4 and 5, the grand total was $4,668.94. Go fuck yourself, TKO. That's batshit crazy.
Yeah, there's no need to. I mean, and that's a gamble in of itself. Vegas is a gambling city, but I mean, there's what kind of fucking money, like what kind of worth are you getting when you're paying that kind of money? In any case,
there's no value there. Like the show could be the best show of Mania ever, and there's no way those tickets are worth 17. No, fuck. After fees,
They're not $5,000. They're not worth $5,000. I wouldn't even pay that much to go to the Super Bowl and in a stadium at that far away. Which, if you've ever looked up Super Bowl tickets, that far away, they're $10,000 tickets. So this is the Super Bowl of wrestling, but these tickets are not worth that much. I don't care how hot WWE is. I don't care how interested I am in WrestleMania because it's my childhood favorites. Last WrestleMania, I probably finally get to see a CM Punk match live. You know, I get to see The Rock wrestle Roman most likely, but it doesn't matter. Even with the city, I've never been to Vegas. I'd love to go to Vegas, and I get to hang out with two good buds that I barely get to see. Well, obviously I get to see Brandon a little more than I see Donny, but I mean, shit, we're going to SmackDown next month. Shout out!
Hey,
get ready for that episode. But it's very much. I'm not going to pay that much for WrestleMania. I paid quite a bit for my tickets last year. They were separate tickets, and I waited quite a bit to get them. I kind of just went on a whim. I was like, "Fuck it, let's go." Fuck it, we ball. But for 2-night tickets, $900 a night for the nosebleeds, not a chance. Not a chance.
No.
20 times more than what I paid in Philadelphia for WrestleMania 40 for the exact same goddamn seats. 20 times more.
Which is wild because you can considering the initiative too, the irony in that like the production values were supposed to be going down generally speaking, so that for instance, like your set designs and stuff to allow for more seating, and you would think that would increase in seating would kind of, reduce value a little bit. But I mean, it just seems to have taken the completely opposite approach with it. Like, it seems like they're just going to be making hand over fist to spite themselves. And, it's ironic too that Punk being kind of what he was on about, and I don't mean to get on too much of a tear about it, but when you consider like what the average wrestling fan is getting priced out because of shit like this too, right? Like, I mean, pro wrestling always kind of was like a what do you want to call it, like a working man's hobby or like a working man's leisure. So like, it's right. You want to be able to take your kids to WrestleMania. You want to be able to take family to WrestleMania. Like, that's the idea. It's like American tradition almost, right? Now it's a global tradition in a broader sense, but I mean, just it's crazy. Like, it's not like they need the money. The money makes itself. Like, you want people to come to WrestleMania.
These fucking prices, like, that's who I think is. I mean, it's either Vince McMahon set these prices himself, or it was the UFC, because UFC's pricing is even worse than WWE's.
Yeah, UFC was in Toronto earlier on this year, and the prices were absolute dick. It was at an arena, and the cheapest seat you could get was around $1,000 each Canadian, which is still a hell of a lot cheaper than these fucking tickets are, but it is still ungodly expensive. And I know, like, the price that I just cited now, that's surge pricing. It's going to go back down. Nobody in their right fucking mind should be spending $1,750 for a seat where they're closer to the fucking clouds than they are to the ring. But the fact that I don't know if I should be more mad at Ticketmaster or I should be more mad at TKO. And I know nobody from those goddamn companies are ever going to hear this rant, but fuck that. Fuck them. That's ridiculous.
I'm sure they're seeing all the backlash on Twitter, on Facebook. They have to be seeing it. And if they're sitting there just, doing the fucking Scrooge McDuck, Mr. Krabs, hey, my money, yay, and getting all excited, then they can go fuck themselves. We can go to Vegas, see all the other wrestling shows, and fucking still hang out at the hotel and just get drunk. You know what I mean? We can watch wrestling. We can watch the shows in our fucking hotel rooms for all I care. I'm more excited about the trip itself than Mania because I get to hang out with you guys. But I think we've really hit the wall on what we could say about this if we really wanted to. We could go on longer tangents, but Donnie, why don't we talk about what we're doing today?
We got more to talk about than that. So follow us on socials. I actually haven't bitched about this on X or Facebook, probably for the best. I'll get us banned from all those platforms if I do. But
we'll let Brandon.
Hey, there you go. There you go.
Follow us on X. Follow us on Facebook. Yeah, we'll have a good time. Maybe Brandon will put up some nice calming content like we had last week. Because God, I know I need that after this. Holy shit. But what we got today?
You
Today
know,
we're
I'm
going to
all
do...
about peace and calming.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to do the On This Day like we usually do. We're going to talk about Halloween Havoc a little bit that's coming up this Sunday. Specifically, I want to make sure we talk about Ethan Page's diss track because that was great. But lastly,
Greatest year of 21st
oh my
century.
goodness, Marta just brought me a tequila smash. She knows I'm having a day right now. Oh my.
Oh, Marta, you're the best.
Hail, Marta.
Hail Marta, yes. Lord and ruler of all reality.
So that was your cat.
But
Cat's gonna have something to say about that.
yeah, well, Fred can fret himself. But the main part of our show today is we're going to be talking about 'tis the spooky season. We're going to be talking about the spookiest man of them all, the dead man, the Undertaker. And specifically, we're going to talk about his rivalries. So we did the rivalry show about a month back. The guys digged it. I was like, well, we can do it again, but I don't know about the format. So the guys cooked up a format to talk about the Undertaker's greatest rivalries, which we'll share with you in a bit.
So I'll preface this rivalries episode. I'm very happy to be doing it again. I know Brandon is very happy to be doing it again. When it comes to the Undertaker, the way that we structured it last time goes out the fucking window because it's the Undertaker. Oh, who did more for the business? It doesn't matter. It's the Undertaker. The Undertaker clears everything when it comes to that structure. So the way we did it is we all picked a person who we think is the Undertaker's best rival, and we're going to have a roundtable discussion and have a little argument on it. I went a little more niche.
Yeah, just a little.
I know Donny and Brandon went a little more mainstream. I wanted to go a little more niche with my pick, so we're going to have some fun with it, guys.
Though to say your pick is not at all irrelevant, especially within current context, as we'll soon discover.
And that's a bit of a spoiler. Shout out Paul Heyman.
All right.
My pick is Paul Heyman. It's just Paul Heyman.
You know, they have a very storied history.
They do.
All right. Well, without further ado, let's jump into On This Day. So, Pierce, if you want to let us know what happened at some point in wrestling history on October 23rd.
Speaking of Halloween Havoc, 1994, WCW presented it from the Joe Louis Arena in Detroit, Michigan. In one of the main matches, Hacksaw Jim Duggan defeated stunning Steve Austin by DQ to retain the U.S. heavyweight title. I'm sure it was a whatever match. Hacksaw Jim Duggan probably should not have been winning titles in 1994 because he was like 60 then and he's still 60 now. Shout out to Hacksaw, he's funny. Carries around a 2x4 for reasons. But in the main event, Hulk Hogan defeated Ric Flair in a career versus career WCW World Title match where, due to the loss, Ric Flair had to retire. And if you guys can believe it, the retirement did not last.
No way. Shocker.
A man with morals, Ric Flair. Shout out Ric Flair.
Man, I could have gone to his retirement match, which technically is still his retirement match at this point, which is a little surprising to me. I could have gone to that show in Nashville in 2022, the weekend of SummerSlam there. And I asked Marta, I'm like, Marta, do you have any interest in seeing Ric Flair's last match? And she said, absolutely fucking not. I do not want to see the Crypt Keeper die in a wrestling ring.
He got pretty close.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. There's a lot of blood.
Yeah, so that still actually stands up as his last match. But people who thought that may have been his last match, yeah, they should have known better.
I'm gonna skip my next one. I'm gonna end with that one, but we're gonna jump to 2005. TNA host Bound for Glory. I did not get the arena. In the main event, Rhino defeats Jeff Jarrett in 6 minutes to win the NWA World Title.
Wow.
And to go full circle, Rhino will be inducted into the TNA Hall of Fame this year.
Okay.
So, look at that.
6-minute main event. Brilliant writing.
I think it was like a gauntlet style match, and Rhino was the last person.
Oh.
But he beat Jeff Jarrett in 6 minutes to win the title.
A gauntlet main event.
Shout out to Rhino, best spear ever. I will not argue.
Hey! We all know it's not a spear.
It is a gore.
Thank you.
It's I mean, it's the best. And then in 2008, TNA Impact has a live show, and a bunch of men in suits come out. And I'm gonna let Brandon say who these men are, because I really don't know the whole faction. But the main event, Mafia, was born on this day. So, Brandon, could you give me the?
Oh well, you know, obviously my goat Kurt Angle joins, you know, the WCW wash-ups in, you know, Booker T, Big Sexy, Diesel, Kevin Nash, also subject of the the something it was Alex Shelley gig. It was a great gimmick. Anywho, you had Scott Steiner, who, as we all know, hates fat people, made a meme out of it.
And a math genius.
He loves math.
He graduated from a highly educated university.
Yep.
Big bad booty daddy. Shout out Scott Steiner. Fucking love Scott Steiner.
Oh yeah.
Oh, you cannot hate Scott Steiner. He's fucking
well, you can.
Amazing.
But you'd be wrong.
Yes.
Correct.
100%. Indubitably.
Yeah,
one of
actually.
Ironically, one of the more dominant factions in TNA's history. They had a lot of opponents, a lot of opposing factions come up to them, and many fell short.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't Sting also in the main event Mafia?
Yes. Oh God, how can I omit that? Yeah. Sorry, yeah, I got so off put by Scott Steiner and just, you know, went on kind of a mental tangent there.
WCW
he forgot the math. He forgot the math of the number of people that were in. He got confused by Steiner math and didn't count everybody in the Mafia.
That's how it is. But to end off on this day, in 2000, Rodney and Hawaii, better known to us wrestling fans as Yokozuna, passed away at the very young age of 34. Obviously, he was a fixture in the WWF in the 90s, known for his intimidating size and very surprising agility for a man his size in the ring. He's a two-time WWF champion and two-time WWF Tag Team champion, member of the 2012 Hall of Fame, and a member of the legendary Anoa'i family. He was the first person in the Anoa'i family to hold a world title in WWF. To this day, he's still missed, and may he rest in peace.
And Yoko was great. I remember watching as a kid then, and I was actually watching consistently in the mid to late 90s. And Yoko was a scary looking dude. And of course, I'm a stupid kid. I didn't know that he wasn't actually Japanese. But he was very, very good for a guy his size.
Very surprisingly agile, but that's kind of the thing with the Anoa'is. You know, you got people like Umaga, Jacob Fatu, Solo Sikoa. Even you could say The Rock and Roman. They're pretty big dudes, but they're very, very agile.
Yeah, Rikishi too.
Yeah, Rikishi was super agile.
Rikishi.
They were all throwing super kicks at 300 plus pounds and doing
standing still too, just like from a planted foot, just kicking up like that at 350 or whatever he was. That's nuts.
But I mean, with Yoko, he was having health issues due to his size, and fortunately, that's what took him from us. But again, rest in peace to Yoko. I know you're missed with your family, you're missed within the wrestling industry, and I thought 2012, it seemed a bit late to put Yoko in the Hall of Fame. It was a bit overdue. And, I'm happy he's in there. It's a well-deserved induction. Do you guys have any other comments on Yoko? Or
we'll probably bring him up again in a bit, but...
Yeah, he was definitely...
bring him up is actually... he was... Backstage, he was part of something known as the BSK, the Bone Street Crew, and one of the other members of that is the dead man, the Undertaker, and we're going to be talking about his rivals. And Donny, I'm gonna be honest, I forgot to do what you asked me, but we can still go off the top of his other side of the rivals if you'd like.
Yeah, so we're gonna kick off this with a list. But first, we wanted to do is kind of I tasked Pierce, which was the last minute, and I don't blame him for not getting it because the list is so goddamn long. I'm looking at it right now. But tasked him with a list of like, who are the people that the Undertaker, feuded with that were monsters? We're getting into spooky season here. It's like, who did he feud with that was a monster that he was kind of used to build up other wrestlers like him? Because in reality, there's nobody like the Undertaker. There never has been. There probably never will be. But throughout his storied, 30 plus year career, one of the things that he was tasked with was fighting a lot of big dudes and a lot of scary dudes. So I'm looking up on his list on profightdb.com here, and
could I find our text from it and then go just down the list?
yeah, I was going to go in chronological order here, actually, a little bit, since I have them by time, if that's okay.
Let me see if I could find it.
All right.
I can't remember which part we put it in. Okay, so this was just off the top of my head right away. Giant Gonzalez, Nails, Fake Taker. The next two, I'm not saying they were bad, but they were very much monsters of the week for Taker. Mark Henry, Big Show, both constantly. A-Train, Mabel, Great Khali, Heidenreich, Kamala. You could put Kane in there for some of their feuds. Vladimir Kozlov. I guess
King Kong Bundy.
Put, what's his name? Yeah, King Kong Bundy. You could put Snitsky in there because they did Snitsky and Heidenreich as a team for a bit, and there's just so many bad Undertaker rivals. Donny, I'll let you continue on with the list.
So like some of these names, it's like, oh, I remember some of these guys, and some of them I don't. But going back all the way, basically around 1992 was when Undertaker was more of a mainstay. He had made his debut in 1990, late 1990, and in 91
won the title in 91.
Sorry,
won the WWF title in 91.
Yeah, until Hogan said, "My neck, brother."
Yeah, I hit my head, but you clearly didn't. We'll throw Hulk Hogan in there too for being a huckster.
Yeah, but some monsters. When we say monster, again, it could be like some like physically imposing dude, or just some like psychological weirdo. First name I actually have on this list is kind of checks off both. So Sid Justice, he had a pretty long feud with him early in 1992. The Berserker, there's another one. Kamala, Nails. That's through 92. Then in 93, you've got Papa Shango. He had a stint with.
Didn't even think Papa Shango.
Shango, potato.
I don't know what it is, honestly.
Yeah, so. Neither do I. But that led to Giant Gonzalez, which is already spoken about. Yokozuna, rest in peace.
Which, with Giant Gonzalez in the streak, that is the only match that Undertaker did not win by pin or submission. It was a disqualification loss or win for the Undertaker, which sucks.
What else we got here? Adam Bomb, Crush.
Rest in peace, Crush.
Yeah. Bam Bam Bigelow. Come on.
Rest in peace, Bam Bam. Oh my God, yep. Such an underrated big man.
King Mabel. He had a small feud with Isaac Yankem. Funny.
Yeah. Whatever happened to him?
Yeah, who knows? Diesel was a really big dude. He had to help put over Mankind, Goldust. Those were like more like psychological weirdos. His Mankind feud went a while. That was like almost all of 1996.
And into 1997 and 1998, they went a long time.
Yep. And then from there, we've got not really much more in 97 because he was champion. He didn't really fight any monsters, little bits and pieces here and there. Then we got Kane, though, in 98, obviously. Bit with Vader. Oh, my goodness. These names keep going.
Vader.
Yep. Now he gets away from the monsters a little bit into 98, 99. Now he's kind of feuding a little more with like the top stars, and none of them are really all that monstrous per se. But you got the Big Show in there. I'm trying to see if we're missing anybody else.
I like how you started with that sentiment and then you led with the 7-foot, 500-pounder.
Yeah, I mean, like the other guys that were listed there were not monsters by any stretch of the imagination, but
No, your Austins and your Rocks and
yeah, exactly, right. Then we got here Booker T, William Regal, the Dudleys. Like those aren't really monsters or anything like that. Geez, yeah, he had a good stint, a couple years where he just didn't fight anybody big, but then he had a couple more. Brock Lesnar, that was in 2002. Oh my goodness, so many names. Not all these guys are like your typical like jobber names that you associate to by any stretch, but A-Train he had a feud with and went through to WrestleMania.
Which was supposed to be a tag match between Nathan Jones and Taker versus A-Train and
Nathan Jones
Big
is another
Show,
monster.
which Nathan
my
Jones
God.
then came in after being taken out the match and kicked somebody in the face, which I'm pretty sure should have caused a disqualification and caused the end of the streak.
Heidenreich, Muhammad Hassan,
Right.
which was like, that's an interesting story in its own right. Not really a monster, but well, unless you listen to the cable network that got him canceled, they'd say he's a monster.
Yeah, if you were around in 2005 or whatever, then maybe you have a varying opinion on that, but that was another time.
Heat magnet.
Yep. The Great Khali.
Yep.
Like
I said, you could bring in Mark Henry.
Yeah, Mark Henry's right around then. That's 2007. I think that's basically around the tail end of like he's not really fighting any more big dudes at that point. I think like Great Khali, Mark Henry, Big Show. That's like the tail end of it. I think Heidenreich was probably his last like real like let's push the big monster that really shouldn't be getting pushed. I guess Vladimir Kozlov a little bit as well, but
Vladimir Kozlov beat him clean on a SmackDown for no reason other than to try and push Kozlov.
yeah, that's the list of names that I've got here. So very long lists of people that Undertaker tried to make in this industry. Some worked really well. I think we're going to talk about some of those today, whether they were made by him or already were made, and Undertaker just made it very memorable. We'll get into that. So I guess, Brandon, if you want to start us off, who did you choose to talk about in one of Undertaker's best rivalries?
Well, I mean, bringing up the list you kind of went down there, I think I might have heard a double mention in there somewhere, but I mean, you've got to, when you're talking about Undertaker's rivals, you've got to put Kane right up there at the top. Now, I'm a big fan of long-term storytelling in wrestling. I mean, look at how successful the Bloodline is prime example in current day, right? But I don't know that there's really been a single story that's had two people so closely linked and also so well defined as individuals as you find in the Kane and Undertaker story. So there's a lot of fucked up shit that happened in the 90s, right? Like Undertaker, the family home burns down, his parents are dead, his brother presumed dead. Paul Bearer, his manager at the time, is starting to mistreat the Undertaker, and when the Undertaker's starting to get fed up with it, Paul Bearer threatens to tell Undertaker's deepest, darkest secret. And then it gets to a point where Taker's had enough, and then Paul Bearer reveals to the Undertaker that his brother is in fact alive. And then time goes on, and there's a Hell in a Cell match between the Undertaker and his little brother Kane, which, funny enough, I think initially when they were...
That wasn't against... No.
Did I miss something?
No, that was against Shawn Michaels.
Oh, it was against... Oh, my goodness, you're correct. Sorry, you're not the only one who had a little bit of tequila before the show there, Donnie. It's been a day. Woo! But no, so there was a Hell in a Cell. The variables were correct. My apologies. So the Hell in a Cell match is about to take place. It's taking place. And then you hear the music. You hear the organ. You see the fire. And then here comes this monster in a big red getup and a mask coming down. He's bigger than the Undertaker. He's certainly stronger than the Undertaker because I've never seen the Undertaker rip a cell door off the hinges the way that Kane did.
You could say he's a big red machine.
It's entirely probable, right?
Hey. Yeah, also, you can't. I'm cutting you off here. I'm sorry. But if you're going to talk about his introduction, you got to say his introduction right.
Well, I mean, when you were talking about Isaac Yankem earlier, I was thinking to myself, that's got to be Kane. I mean, not quite so emotionally, mind you, but in a more gentle, introspective kind of way.
That's got to be Kane.
That's got to be Kane.
Kane.
One of the greatest intros to a character in pro wrestling history, for my money. It's interesting.
Real bad, and they nailed it on every front.
And I love the fact that they went with, and they've gone through this throughout their whole careers. And it's a very simple, stupid little thing. But even as a kid, I'm like, oh, look at that. Kane's red. The Undertaker's blue. The Undertaker puts his arms up to turn the lights on. Kane puts his arms up, slams them down, sets off the fire. And that's something actually, if you listen to Taker's podcast, 6 Feet Under, with Glenn Jacobs on it, a.k.a. Isaac Yankem, a.k.a. That's Gotta Be Kane. They actually mentioned that was intentional. It was meant to show kind of the duality of their characters.
The yin and the yang, if you will.
Mm-hmm. And through the years, to kind of not to tell a huge, massive story about their careers. And I mean, if anyone wants to see their whole career catalog, highly, highly advise it. If you're a pro wrestling fan, it's essential viewing. But they've gone through so many configurations of character. I mean, Kane just, shuffled his masks here and there for the most part, lost a sleeve or two. But both, carried themselves with this brooding intensity, and they've faced each other one time at WrestleMania, 2 times at WrestleMania, stand corrected. Goodness gracious. First time was crazy Clash of the Titans, took 3 tombstones to put Kane down the first time.
This was their first match ever together too, right? They never had a match before their WrestleMania match.
No, because Undertaker didn't want to hurt his brother.
Viewed as Isaac Yankem and
yeah, but that's not the same thing. We didn't know that had to be Kane.
Within character, Taker was being a good brother and didn't want to hurt little Kane. But then little Kane, was kind of pushing his luck, and sometimes big brother's got to put little brother back in the lane. So I mean, you just drop him on his head 3 times, and 1, 2, 3, take care of business. And then once you know it, before long, they're teaming up. Wouldn't be the last time they would team up over their career. Brothers of Destruction, obviously an incredibly noteworthy tag team, only won the titles 1 time, and not even in their best iteration, in my opinion. But throughout their careers, right? We will say that again. DDP and Canyon were on the wrong end of that exchange. But I mean, you've had these 2 big men who have effectively built each other's careers. And The Undertaker would have been The Undertaker on his own just fine, but Kane added so much more to The Undertaker that, has really kind of humanized Taker in a way. And it's funny too, the devil's favorite demon in Kane brought out the human side in The Undertaker. He showed empathy for his sibling. He's, wanting to mold little brother in the way he should be going, and etc. and blah, blah. Tale as old as time. Cain and Abel.
Checkups on his teeth twice a year.
Yeah, very possible.
Devil's favorite dentist.
Come on.
Devil's favorite dentist.
You sure that's not Britt Baker? No, too soon?
I mean, you could ask Adam Cole.
Yeah.
But
say too soon? Too soon? Hi, Britt. Shout out Britt. And Adam.
Shout out Britt Baker and Adam Cole.
And every other dentist.
We know your breakup was probably amicable, hopefully amicable, but I love both of you. You're both incredible performers. I hope the best, and I want to see Adam Cole succeed.
Britt, we do have a podcast. No, I'm just kidding.
If you'd like to come on.
But Yeah, I mean, Brothers of Destruction, um, teaming together to fight the two-man power trip was a very underrated feud. Um, Taker being buried alive, betrayed by his brother, only to resurrect at WrestleMania 20 for their second match, long after Kane had unmasked and become this twisted version of himself, suffering from some severe, what's the word I'm looking for? He didn't have no damn scars. We'll just say that.
You like to shock people's nuts.
He had a severe dysmorphia that also prompted him to attach car batteries to testicles.
McMahon's. Well, of one McMahon in particular. Unfortunately, not Vince.
Unfortunately, yeah, the one who could still had a chance at bearing some, decent heirs to the throne. But I mean, who knows? Maybe he had Declan after that. Maybe electricity did something for him.
All right.
But anyhow, but no, Kane obviously profited a great deal from being the Undertaker's brother as well, becoming world heavyweight champion. After unmasking, cut some great promos in their feud, screaming about his brother being a fraud because he cast away the darkness that was in him to become Biker Taker, and then prompting the return of the Dead Man in 2004. And then he became the best pure striker in the game.
Oh, God.
Due largely in part, I'm sure, to his brother's actions in burying the
he
old.
Felt
well, I mean, he was
to watch MMA and learn how to do jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, I never quite understood how, a demon has any business putting people in kimuras and, go-go platas and stuff like that. But, it was wrestling in the mid 2000s. So
Taker could do whatever the fuck he want. No one was going to tell him no.
Yeah, it's
precisely.
the Undertaker.
But again, you'll never find, for my money, a better long-term story in pro wrestling that's caused such growth among two characters, among two individuals. And that's what I've got to say about that for right now.
All right. That was good. Pierce, if you don't mind, I feel like it's probably appropriate for me to go next, considering the timelines in there.
Absolutely. I do want to say about Brandon's, though, that 2004 Kane, Slow Chemical is Kane's best theme music. I will not argue. He should have never lost that theme.
Yeah, shout out Finger 11, Canadian band, who did that.
That theme is so good.
Yep. That's Canadian music right there.
Well, from Canadian music to Canadian opinions.
Yeah. So I decided to go with a feud that was around that time. It actually started earlier in like wrestling, not necessarily in life, with them being brothers and all that. But this feud started a little bit earlier, and actually kind of went a little bit later too. So the feud that I'm going with is with the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels. So turn us all the way back to WrestleMania in 1997, where The Undertaker defeats Psycho Sid, becomes WWE champion, has a few successful title defenses against Vader, against Farouk for the Nation of Domination, and you're getting ready for SummerSlam in 1997. And the person who feels he is deserving of a title shot is Canada's own Bret the Hitman Hart. So Bret Hart, fresh off his feud with Stone Cold Steve Austin at WrestleMania that year, feels like he's obligated to go into the main title picture, and he takes on. No, Stone Cold was the year after. I take that back. He must have been feuding with, who was Bret Hart feuding with in 97? Now I gotta think back.
Stone Cold.
Was it Stone Cold?
97?
Yeah, it was Stone Cold Steve Austin.
I thought that was
98. I thought Austin was 96.
98.
I thought it was 96.
98, Bret was in WCW because at the tail end of 97 was the Montreal Screwjob.
Right. Okay, so I was right. Okay, I was right initially.
Jeez, and then you call yourself a Canadian?
Now, I don't know every single thing about everybody's career that's Canadian. But anyways,
specifically Bret Hart, you should be ashamed.
no, that's not
true. Pretty sure they snuck cliff notes of that in your history book somewhere in school.
They definitely did not. A lot of racist stuff in our history books, but nothing like that.
Oh man.
Yeah, it's not really that much different than your history books, in fairness. But yeah, so they have a feud at SummerSlam, and for some reason, I can't recall exactly why, but Shawn Michaels decides to stick his nose in. He feels like he should also be involved in this. But because the match is decided to be one-on-one, instead, Shawn Michaels is the special guest referee, which also technically had a bit of a throwback to the CM Punk and Drew McIntyre match at SummerSlam this year, with Seth Rollins being the special guest referee. Definitely had some throwbacks to this match in '97. Shawn Michaels hit Stone Cold Undertaker in the head with a chair instead of Bret Hart, who he was trying to hit. Then still felt obligated to count the 3, and Undertaker obviously was furious. Screwed him out of the title. That led to a match at In Your House Ground Zero, which was a total shit show. I don't know if you guys remember that match at all, but at the start of the match, Michaels is basically trying to run away. Undertaker is chasing him down the whole time. Undertaker attacks a referee that's trying to get him back into the ring. Then all of like the first iteration of DX comes out. So Rick Rude, Triple H, Chyna, they're trying to help. And it's just a whole shit show. This match isn't even happening. So it was a no contest. And then that leads us to In Your House Bad Blood, which Brandon talked about a little bit already, with the debut of Kane in this match. This was the first ever Hell in a Cell match in WWE history, and it was quite good, but obviously made by ever so more important by the debut of Kane in that match. That caused HBK to win. Finally, they blow off the feud at this point at the Royal Rumble in '98. So this is actually a pretty long feud. They have a casket match at the Royal Rumble in 1998. Two notable things happened in this match. First, this was the match where Shawn Michaels destroys his back, where he has herniated discs in his lower back.
That was such an ugly bump too.
Ends up costing him about 4 years of his career from this match. And the match ended with the assistance of a bunch of people, but notably Kane, to come out, trap the Undertaker in the coffin, and set it on fire, which is how the Mania feud ended up happening. The whole time, Undertaker said he wouldn't fight his brother. Then Kane tried to burn him. So, anyways.
They've tried to light Undertaker on fire in a casket like 6 times, and it's never worked.
No, I mean, he is the dead man. I don't know why you'd keep trying after the first time, but...
Yeah, he sits up, and then that's it. So,
the last little bit of a tidbit in this era, which is an interesting one, was for WrestleMania 14. The main event for that WrestleMania, as you recall, would be Shawn losing to Stone Cold Steve Austin. And the little tidbit of history was that a lot of people had concerns that Shawn wasn't going to be willing to drop the title to Austin in this match. And The Undertaker was actually sitting in Gorilla during the match in case Shawn went off script to go out there and attack Shawn Michaels so that...
He taped his fists in front of him, famously.
Sorry?
He taped his fists in front of him to kind of send a message.
Yeah. So he ended up giving up the title there, and then he went on his leave for his back surgery that he needed, and all his rehabilitation. And then we fast forward 10 years almost. Royal Rumble 2007 was down to 2 men, HBK and The Undertaker, and this was their first ever face-to-face since Shawn had returned, and the Undertaker ended up going over in that match, but and became champion. But this led to other Rumble teases and 2 back-to-back absolute bangers at WrestleMania. The first of which, WrestleMania 25, is arguably, according to some, the best match in WWE history.
I think it's the greatest WrestleMania match in WWE history, but I don't think it's the best match.
Yeah, I mean, there's discussion that could be had for what the
Argument
best
can be
match
made.
ever is, but the best match at Mania has got to be in contention for the best match ever. And a lot of people would tell you it was Shawn and Undertaker. They ran it back the following year, and that was a streak versus career match, which the Undertaker did end Shawn Michaels' career at that point, until they went to Saudi Arabia, which we won't talk about. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for not talking about it.
But Shawn still got involved in other feuds that Taker had with Triple H. That was also 2 consecutive Mania events, where Undertaker defeated Triple H both years. Shawn was the special guest referee in the second one, tried to screw the Undertaker. He still couldn't do it, and still couldn't get him pinned.
The greatest kickout ever was in that Hell in a Cell match.
Yep. Absolutely,
I
it was.
will not argue that.
Yep, the super kick, or the speech and music into the pedigree, and Shawn counted it at the normal speed, but Deadman kicked out. Everybody was shocked. The arena popped like crazy. Undertaker ended up being able to turn the tables, come back and beat Triple H. Shawn still counted it because he felt like he had to. Yeah, that was a hell of a match too, honestly. Very underrated, I think, as far as Undertaker Mania events go. Yeah, and that's their feud. So that feud stretched over 10 years. Again, ignoring Super Showdown 2018. So definitely high stakes matches. Definitely top of the card matches. Some of the best matches ever in a WWE ring. And yeah, that's my pick.
Yeah, interesting thing to note, I believe. Sorry, just one last thing. I don't know if you had mentioned it, Don, but I think at WrestleMania 25, that was the first time Undertaker had actually beaten Shawn Michaels, no?
That
I
is
believe,
correct.
wasn't that part of the story?
Yes.
Is that right? He had never beaten him before.
Yep, that's correct.
Which is really cool. Sorry.
I agree, but I'm going to go with a little bit more of a niche pick. I'm going to go with Batista. I think their year-long 2007 into slightly 2008 feud, the reason I think it's the best goes down to one big reason, is match quality. It started at the Rumble, which I do want to say, Donnie, the Taker versus Shawn mini match at the end of the Rumble is the greatest finish to a Rumble in history. It is so good.
Mm-hmm.
These guys have been just spent at this point, and then they just go 10 minutes and have an incredible wrestling match. So I want to shout out that for your argument. But as you said, sweet chin music. Taker catches him, throws him over the top rope. He wins the title shot, and on Raw, I believe 2 Mondays later, have John Cena, Bobby Lashley, and Batista in the ring, which I want to see the timeline where Taker chooses the ECW title instead of the world title. But
hey, Bobby Lashley and The Undertaker probably would have had a banger of a match around
I'm
that
not
time.
disagreeing. I'm just saying that would have been pretty funny for him to be like, I choose you, Bobby Lashley.
Very interesting smart.
ECW title.
We're going to get extreme.
It starts at No Way Out 2007. They have Shawn and John Cena versus Taker and Dave. And Dave turns on him at the end of the match. Undertaker gets pinned by, I believe, Cena for them to win. Going into Mania 23, they get put in the middle of the card. They get their time cuts a little bit, so they just go, you know what? Let's steal the fucking show. And they did. They just beat the shit out of each other. It's a huge big fight feel. It's two just hosses fighting, and then Taker wins big goal to go to 15-0, which in my eyes, like, the two guys that define the big gold belt are Taker and Batista, and the belt looks great on both of them.
What about Rey Mysterio?
I mean, it looks good on him, but they just didn't treat him like a champion.
Okay.
SmackDown comes around. Taker's doing his little celebration. Batista comes out. I have this ingrained in my mind. Congratulations. I want my rematch. Drops the mic, leaves the ring. That's how the show ends. They have a last man standing match at Backlash, and they just destroy each other. It ends in a double down because Batista speared him through the stage. And a couple weeks later, they have just a violent and bloody cage match on SmackDown, where again they both exit, both land on their feet on the outside at the same time. Another draw. Mark Henry comes out, destroys Taker because Taker unfortunately got injured around this time, and then Edge cashes in on Taker. Taker comes back at Unforgiven, and they rekindle this feud going into Cyber Sunday because Batista regained the World Heavyweight title from the Great Khali at Unforgiven, which, Donny, that was a bad reign. It was not good. You were wrong.
Whoa, what are you talking about? I never said it was a good reign. I said it made sense for him to win.
No, it didn't. It was a bad reign. It should have never happened. Should have just went back to Dave.
He was a legitimate monster at the time. Certainly way more legitimate than Shelton Benjamin has ever been.
It's okay to have wrong opinions, Donnie.
I mean,
anyway,
who's got more Twitter followers? Or X followers or Instagram followers? I'm pretty sure Great Khali is like the second most followed wrestler on the planet.
Because of India, not because of
the WWE universe.
Because of India.
In India.
Anyway, so Batista and Undertaker going to Cyber Sunday 2007 to have another title match. If you guys remember Cyber Sunday, I know Brandon and I have talked about it on the podcast that we'd like to see that make a comeback because it would make so much sense for the digital world of today. The fans vote. They want Stone Cold Steve Austin to be the special guest referee. Batista beats The Undertaker clean. 2 straight Batista bombs. 1, 2, 3. Then we go to Survivor Series, which is supposed to be the feud ender. They have just kind of a forgotten about Hell in a Cell match. It's bloody. It's violent. They beat... I mean, I've said it for all these matches, but they beat the shit out of each other. That's the biggest thing is these feud, is that these two have incredible chemistry, and they do not pull their punches. In it, Batista becomes the first man since Kane to kick out of a tombstone pile driver. Nobody had done it for almost 10 years at that point, and he kicks out, and then a tombstone onto the stairs, but this is where the return of Edge happens. He hits him with the camera, drags Dave over to stop him from winning the title. Leads into Armageddon, where they have the triple threat match, where the Edge heads debut, and Edge wins the title there, leads into the Edge-Taker feud, but they do have kind of one more match because they have the Elimination Chamber at No Way Out to determine the number one contender for the World Heavyweight title for WrestleMania. The final two are Batista and Taker, has one of my favorite spots in it. Batista's trying to ram Taker into the chain link on the outside with like a power slam. They back up, they go over the ropes, Taker reverses it perfectly into Tombstone, 1, 2, 3. These two didn't have another match after that till 2009, where they had a chairs match for the World Heavyweight title at TLC, which is probably their worst match because it ends in like Batista wins by DQing Taker, and then Teddy Long comes out and reverses it because the low blow is not allowed in a chairs match, which is stupid. and then Taker wins.
One could argue a chairs match itself is stupid.
I'm not disagreeing. There's been one good one, and it's the one where the Big Show had just that comically large chair.
Ah, yes.
But I mean that's pretty much it. I mean, from WrestleMania 23 till WrestleMania 29, Undertaker had the best match on WrestleMania, arguably, and it started with the Batista feud. And in my mind, Dave's his best because it elevated both performers. It showed him to be a star on the caliber of the Undertaker's level, and then escalation of the feud because these guys just beat the shit out of each other. And and I know having a dusty finish in a feud isn't great, but it was just clear draws. Realistically, these two they could have one more match. They're 2-2 in my eyes. I don't want to see that because they're both old, but sometimes the best story is who's the worthy champion, who's the biggest badass on the brand. And I think we should also take into consideration that both of their entrances are fucking awesome, and that should be a point in my favor. Thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah.
I mean, but they're not sexy boys. So
no, Batista walks alone in the pit of danger.
Batista is also a retired demon. Now, I know, like, back in the OVW days, if you followed him from those times, him being Leviathan and then ironically becoming Deacon to one Reverend Devon, they have been building Batista up to be, as CM Punk would say, a monster to fight the monsters of, in this case, the WWE Universe.
CM Punk was never a monster. We had this sidebar of a chat earlier on this week, and that quote was silly.
Oh my God, Donny!
False advertising.
That is false advertising. He was never a monster, and he didn't even become a monster to deal with the monster that was MJF, because MJF was also not a monster. So, good quote, sure. Lip service, yes. Monster, no. I know you brought that up intentionally, Brandon, and I appreciate it. Yeah, my blood pressure is probably 10 points higher than it's supposed to be because of fucking Ticketmaster today. So yeah, I'm going to get on my high horse about CM Punk not being a monster. Anyways.
You need to go to sleep.
No.
Hey.
No. Not going to happen
Brandon,
yet. I gotta watch Dynamite. Come on.
Thank you.
I got to see what John Moxley's going to do. And I got to see that ROH title match. The Chris Jericho.
Yeah,
Donny stops.
I personally love to see Mark Briscoe, absolutely pile Chris Jericho under ladders. But that's the extent of harm that I wish Chris Jericho to be done. And I feel as though this is a little long in coming, but in reference to previous podcasts that I, might have wished some extensive harm on Chris Jericho, I want to issue an apology, and I want to, in good faith, say that I do not endorse serious physical harm on people trying to make a living. And yeah, that was a little long coming. I in case I, well, I mean, I didn't get us canceled yet, so clearly we're doing okay.
I mean, we got to have listeners for us to get canceled, but
true. Hey, 51 followers on Facebook. Yeah.
Let's go.
No DQ followed us. NoDQ.com followed us on Twitter. Hey.
But it's good to talk about that. It's good to talk about that. Let people know that, like, yeah, we might say some dumb shit on here, but like Pierce does the best job of saying we are for the performers first and foremost. I might say some things suck, but obviously I am entertained by these people on a weekly basis and want that to continue.
We're allowed to have nuanced feelings, as I've said, even though in Canada that's not a thing, apparently.
No, it's not. It must be polarizing or not at all. Because we're close to the pole.
My favorite wrestler is CM Punk.
Anyways, back to our discussion here on Rivals. So we don't really have any criteria that we want to compare on these things. But like to get some of the points, I mean, if we're talking about storytelling here, Um, I would
And
probably have to
Undertaker.
give it. I'd have to give it to Kane. I would think, wouldn't you
There-
guys?
I mean,
Undisputed in my mind.
both Undertaker and Kane in their Hall of Fame speech said it's the greatest story WWE's ever told. I don't know if I go that far, but I think
Well, what's a better
it's up
story?
there for the Bloodline.
You think the
Well, that's
Bloodline
yet
has
to
a
be
better
seen.
story than Undertaker and Kane? It's not even over yet.
Yeah, it's just it all comes down to nuance with Undertaker and Kane. There's not really any nuance. It's Undertaker killed his brother, but then he didn't, they killed his parents. And now his brother's alive, and now his brother's
No,
angry at him, and
I want to give
Paul
some
Bear is
kudos
actually
though,
Kane's
because
dad. Like
that feud never really had a moment. I don't think where it felt like it jumped the shark. Like, yeah, the whole like, are they together? Are they
2010,
not? Are they together? Are they not? You know, that
2010
famous
Undertaker and Kane feud. Oh my God, is it bad?
that famous quote from Vince during the what is it, the WWE Championship Turmoil tournament or whatever it was called? Are you and Kane in cahoots? And Undertaker looks at him. He's like, "You can go to hell." And then he asks Kane,
Yeah, Big
or
Pop.
sorry. So Stone Cold comes out and he wants to know, "Are you and Kane in cahoots?" And Undertaker looks at him and he says, "You can go to hell with him." Big Pop. But like, yeah, obviously there's like swings and are they working together? Are they not working together? We don't know. But I don't think they really had a moment where it felt like they just jumped the shark and went too crazy, which is kind of weird to say considering that was like peak attitude and ruthless aggression era at points. Um, but alternative to the bloodline where you had the whole Jimmy turning, not turning, turning, didn't really make a lot of sense. So
I think there's bad parts on both of them. I just think in general the Bloodline story is more cohesive and more. It's just like better storytelling. With the
Well, and
Attitude Era, it was very much crash TV and a lot of stuff were happening. And with, like I said, the 2010 feud where they brought back Paul Bearer and then he just turned on Taker immediately, and the urn was a flashlight, and partially was that 2004 feud that was post Mask, and Kane lost some mystique because of Katie Vick. It's I'm not saying it's a bad story. It's a very good story, and it could even be a great story to some people. I just think there have been better stories told to date.
I mean, but when you look at the eras that it spanned, though, too, like the company was being portrayed in, when you have like, the Attitude Era, and then you go through the Ruthless Aggression Era into, whatever you want to call the PG era, and you've had all these little iterations of both men, and then they come together, and there's still an association. Like Kane is very much always Undertaker's brother, right? And like when he gets far enough away from Taker to kind of make you forget that, and Kane standing on his own, and he's doing it well, then the Undertaker comes back in. It almost becomes like an event when the two of them come together. I mean, like, and then when you have the fact that Kane had even said himself too, he said like before his partnership with the Undertaker, I had a very Hall of Shame worthy career,
Right.
and when Kane became a thing and added depth to the Undertaker, who you could argue was kind of just what he was in the early '90s prior, just like very, grim, dark, rested, and he was at risk at some pace.
Peace.
Are you going to finish that? There. I was waiting. I'm like, how much did everyone
we, had
give?
we had the timing of the what chance there.
what?
Dead air.
What?
But no. Um, but no, I mean, when you look at like what each of them meant to their careers, and like just how they prompted each other to grow and to develop apart together.
It's very much the Undertaker could have been on his own, but there is no Kane without the Undertaker.
And in many ways, there's not the Undertaker as we know him without Kane.
Right. That, I mean, story wise, you take that. You get the gold. You get the
I,
gold.
I I think you could have had. I think the Undertaker still would have done his like dark brooding ministry era, biker era without Kane. I think it could have. Would there have been maybe little elements here and there missed? Maybe would we never have an Inferno match? Possibly. Um, I feel like he probably still follows a very similar character arc though as a whole.
But then I guess like is he stay as interesting? I guess because again, like a large part of the Undertaker's mythos is his relationship to Kane.
Yeah. I mean, there's no way of knowing for sure, but
Right.
So what should we go on to next?
I mean, the next thing is like the match quality, I would say, and like the match quality. While you spoke very
Sorry,
fondly,
I'm sorry, Brandon, but I think you lose this
yeah, you
round.
definitely don't win
I
this
mean,
one, Brandon. And we're not even going to bring up
yeah,
match
I'm sorry.
quality
There's
here.
No,
been
it's
one
purely
decent
cinema
match.
of its era.
Yes,
Right.
There's been one decent match between the two. Everything else was
finisher
bad to dog
spam,
shit.
no selling, basically a Will Ospreay match.
Oh god, calm down.
Yeah. It's a
Uh,
shame we didn't really have a chain wrestling Kane versus Brazilian Jiu Jitsu black belt Undertaker.
yeah,
That would
but
have been a
They
sight.
almost did in 2010, and then the matches were just dog shit.
Which
but
how do you because
I'll,
like you remember when Shane wrestled the Big Show? It was a fuck with all the May 19th bullshit going on.
oh god,
It was
that
amazing.
was so dumb.
I
Uh,
thought it was
You're not
fantastic.
helping
all
your
right,
argument,
this
Brandon.
is not part of it, Brandon. Sorry, you got to sit this one out.
Fine.
Pierce,
It's a what if.
you sold the Batista feud and the match quality very well, but I'm sorry, it doesn't hold a candle to Mania 25, Mania 26 with Sean.
But the reason that I bring up the match quality is because I think if you look at Undertaker versus Batista, you would not expect them to have the chemistry and have as good as matches as they thought.
Well, yeah,
You know what I mean?
that's true, especially because Batista arguably had some points in his career where he couldn't really go much more than 5 minutes without looking out of gas.
Batista was never really known as like an in-ring general, and then that's why I bring up the match quality because the matches they had were fucking incredible, and they still hold up today. And I'm not saying that WrestleMania 25 and 26 don't hold up. They 100% do. But you expect The Undertaker and Shawn Michaels, when given 25 minutes, to go out and have incredible matches. When you give Big Dave and Big Mark, which is what we are,
You are sometimes for sure, but keep going.
we all are,
Uh,
you give them 15 minutes, and you don't expect them to have the match they did at WrestleMania. You expected them to just be like you expected it to be the Undertaker of WrestleMania 22, of WrestleMania 13, 9, 12. You know all those big guys that he wrestled where it was slow and plodding. But these guys went 100 miles a minute, beat the fuck out of each other, and had an absolutely incredible match for a world championship and elevated that championship.
I agree. I agree with all of that. You're still not winning.
Well, let's bring in Brandon because I'm looking at the feud as a whole because they had 6 or 7 matches that year, and all of them you could put in that 4 or 5 star category.
Oh, that's pretty bold. That's a pretty ballsy
I want to see if I can find star
estimation
rankings
there.
for those matches now that you've said that.
I mean, speaking from a personal bias, like when I was coming up as a fan, like after Batista's rise to dominance and his, into his proper place in the spotlight, like I've always wanted to see a proper feud between him and Taker, like just two big, terrifying, imposing dudes. And Batista, right, like he was one to get gassed. You look at the size of the man, but for a big man, as far as big men go, he wasn't a slouch. He was definitely a new era big man. He wasn't like, like your Lex Lugers of the day or, your Hogans or whatever else you come out of the mid 90s, right? That was easily forgettable apart from, the roid guts and everything. But I mean, I think Batista definitely had something to prove in those matches, like getting past the evolution stuff, getting past Triple H, and then stepping into his own on SmackDown. Undertaker very much at that time being the gatekeeper of SmackDown. If you were shit on SmackDown, like you had a feud with the Undertaker at some point. Like the Undertaker was like he owed if you were facing the Undertaker, you were more than likely the cream of the crop, or you were the champion, or you were someone Vince was very very high on at the time. So to have Batista in that spot alone said, volumes for how the company viewed him, but he definitely had something to prove in his matches too, and he did.
He gave 4 stars to all 4 of those matches in 2007.
See?
The one at
All
Survivor
things considered
Series,
for that time
Cyber
period,
Sunday,
those two.
Backlash, and WrestleMania 23 all received 4 stars.
The only one that doesn't have a rating is that SmackDown cage match, which I don't know why it doesn't. It's probably, I think it's more of a hidden gem, honestly, at this point, because
The
it's
only
more known for
matches in 2007 that received a higher rating for WWE, I'm not getting into stuff that is more niche. But at Backlash, John Cena beating Edge, Randy Orton, and Shawn Michaels in a fatal 4-way. That was 4.5. No Mercy 07, Randy Orton versus Triple H in the Last Man Standing match. That was 4.25. And Edge, Randy Orton on Monday Night Raw on April 30th was 4.25. Shawn Michaels, John Cena, which that was a great match. That match deserved way more than 4.25. That's a 5-star match. Shawn Michaels and John Cena from
on Raw.
That was the Raw. That was the 60-minute.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, that was an amazing match.
And I'll say this: 2007.
Easy to forget it was an hour long, but great.
Is damn near his best year ever, so I can understand maybe his ratings being a little higher.
And
but
in my
mind,
I'm going to say one more. The last match. Before you cut me off, I just want to get the last match out of there that was rated higher. Money in the Bank at WrestleMania 23. Mr. Kennedy defeating CM Punk, Edge, Finlay, Jeff Hardy, King Booker, Matt Hardy, and Randy Orton.
I don't know about that one, but I think, I mean, realistically, 2007 was the year was dominated on SmackDown by the feud of Batista versus The Undertaker. And, all those matches being 4 stars, realistically, they could be higher. I mean, you can go back and watch them. They still hold up. And, there's the Hell in a Cell match is a 5-star match, according to Dave Meltzer. Somehow the WrestleMania matches aren't. But it's very much, I think, nobody expected it. You expect The Undertaker and Shawn Michaels to tear the house down. Nobody expected Batista and The Undertaker to tear the house down, and that's why I think you need to take that into consideration.
It could be a close second, but inevitably, if you have the match quality that, regardless of what the expectation was, the matches were still better.
Brandon?
At that point, hard to argue. No, I mean, Shawn Michaels and Undertaker, particularly in the later point of both of their careers, I mean, their match quality speaks for itself. There's really no disputing. I mean, I'm, even coming from my position, like I can say that Kane and Taker had the best story. I cannot say they had the best matches. I can say that very few people with The Undertaker or in general had better matches than he and Shawn Michaels.
Just 2 guys that were built to wrestle that type of opponent. The Undertaker shouldn't have always fought against monsters all the time. A guy like Shawn brought out the best of him, and Shawn always did the best in those underdog style matchups with the size difference. And
yeah, he made a career of.
When you can say that they brought out the best in each other, I think that tells you that it's hard to, especially with wrestlers of that caliber, it's hard to argue.
I will concede.
All right, I will take it. Third one. This one, it's tough because I mean, Pierce, I feel for you a little bit because you just picked a more niche feud, right? Like, I don't want to diminish your analysis or the actual feud itself, but like, you went against two super heavyweights when it comes to Kane and HBK. So kudos for the
That's why I
effort.
went with niche. I like being the underdog. I was
Uh,
voted worst team in my fantasy league this year, and right now I'm 7-0.
Hell yeah.
Boy.
And they are really mad at me, and I find it hilarious. And I'm like, this is your guys' fault.
Impact of the business would probably be another criteria, just as the overall, like, not storytelling, not match quality, but just overall, like, did this feud improve the business? What did it do, etc. That probably has to go to Kane and Undertaker, I would think.
I'm giving it to Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker. I mean, this is my reasoning, and I want to vote for Batista and The Undertaker, but Batista became a bigger star when he left the WWE, so it really doesn't matter.
Okay.
I'm going with Shawn and The Undertaker because, well, number one, they probably should have main evented 25. Triple H and Randy Orton had no reason main eventing that show.
And that was back when they still used title matches to finish shows, which they arguably should still be doing. But
in that feud, which was such a blood feud, if they would have just let that be like a no holds barred match, they would have been fine. But no, they had to have some stupid convoluted bullshit added to it, which made no sense. And
James says Triple H been champion and not been deserving of a main event spot at WrestleMania. That's got to be harrowing for him. At least 3.
2018, 25, 32.
Yeah.
And all of them were dog shit endings. So it's. Thank
32 is big dog shit
right now, but. And I guess you can make the argument for WrestleMania 19 where he was the racist and he won that match. Different podcast.
Yes. We've brought that up once before.
My reasoning for picking Shawn is, number one, they brought in Hell in a Cell, which now that it's, brought back to the height of its powers, is seen as the hush tones, torture, hell, feud ending match.
The feud killer, yeah.
And they had a match so good that was like third on the card. It killed the rest of the card on WrestleMania, and they had to do a return match as the main event. And I think the first match is better, but some people can make the argument that the second is better. But they really sold WrestleMania on just Taker versus Shawn, streak versus career.
Yeah, the first match I think will always go down as the better match, but the stakes associated to the second match make it more riveting. So the storytelling elements, the second one gets a little bit higher on that. But I think from my perspective, trying to defend the Kane one here is just that you literally get a character to directly compete with the Undertaker throughout the rest of his career. Like, they didn't have another serviceable big guys. It was just a mishmash of people they sub in, sub out, have short stints, they're pushed, whatever, and then they always, they burn bright for a bit and then they fade away. But that didn't happen with Kane. Kane was.
You can make that argument with Kane every time that he was given a push to that, world title level. He lost to Steve Austin in a day. He never got to beat Triple H in 2002, 2003, which he arguably should have.
That wasn't his fault, and that certainly wasn't the fan. The fans hated the fact that Kane only won the title and had it for a day. Fans hated the fact that Kane never won a Royal Rumble. Like, in his heyday,
in spite of his dominating performances.
Absolutely.
The year he should have won was 2001, and unfortunately, Steve Austin versus The Rock was going to main event WrestleMania.
Yeah, and that's fine, but that was Kane was a victim of booking decisions. It certainly wasn't his impact in the business or the fans' perception of him. And
the only other world title run that he had was in 2010, which is one of the worst eras of Kane, unfortunately.
And it's one of the most underwhelming victories he's ever had, too. Like, he cashed in Money in the Bank on a beaten Rey Mysterio and just spiked him like a basketball in the mat to pin him 1, 2, 3. Like that's, I mean, you want Kane to look dominant in victory, but I mean,
Coward's way
come
out.
on, like, yeah, Ray's beaten to hell already. He already had a match. And then here comes Kane, which like Kane and Rey Mysterio, I'm sorry, and I've made this argument in the past, not two guys who you can put in a competitive match against one another, but it happened and right, like Kane has
You're just I get
I understand. I'm just saying like Kane should have had his return to glory in much grander fashion. But especially with all the character development he's had to do, especially with all the adjustment he had to make and all the pivots he had to do.
because of the
But
storytelling that he was given on Raw in 2002, 2003, 2004, where he had the Katie Vick storyline, he had the Lita storyline, where it was things that were slowly and surely taking the mystique of Kane away. Well,
yeah,
they
he had
never
the
did
raping.
anything like that to the Undertaker.
Right. Yeah, and you could argue that Kane was in many respects like a more versatile, even more talented in-ring version of the Undertaker when you take into account like just pulling shit out of his ass like
He
a
was
Hurricane
physically
Rana,
imposing. Like
the Hurricane Rana
Prime
on A
Kane
Train.
was ripped. Like,
Oh
the
yeah, he had
Undertaker
bigger biceps than
was a
Prime
big
Hogan.
dude, but like holy shit. Like Prime Big Red Machine Kane, full mask, everything. That guy was jacked. Holy
When
shit.
Brock when Brock Lesnar is telling tale of how fucking strong you are relative to the rest of the locker room, that puts you in an echelon all your own.
Which
Like
I'm gonna bring this up as an argument for Kane. Is just like, as a fan, Kane's chokeslam was always better than the Undertaker's.
Yep.
absolutely. Yep, I've
That's
always
largely due to
thought
the
that.
strength that he had, right? Like his biceps were massive.
Mm-hmm.
But conversely, the Undertaker's tombstone was always better than Kane's.
Maybe that was intentional. Maybe he just had more practice.
Something about Kane just standing still and snapping down though too. The Undertaker got a little bit of lift in his tombstone. Kane just was like it was like dropping the floor out from a
Yeah,
gallows,
that's
just
true.
down.
Yeah.
Right, and I'll agree with that. But money for just dollars to dollars, best chokeslam ever is Kane.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Kane with that fucking one arm just fucking smack. Like Jelly Roll did his best Kane impression at SummerSlam this year.
Oh man, what
Very
other criteria
impressive.
do we want to talk about?
Oh man.
We don't really have a mediator
We
for this
talked
kind of stuff, so
I mean, realistically, I think we're at 2-1 to 0. I think,
it's gonna be hard for Batista to win, man. I'm sorry.
and I'm not, and that's why I wanted to go with the niche pick. The other option that I had was Edge, and I realistically could have, roped Edge into this because it was literally 2007 to or Royal Rumble 2007 to SummerSlam '08. It was Batista versus Undertaker versus Edge in some sort of fashion. All three of those men were the mainstays of SmackDown's main event scene, and it really defined SmackDown back then. In an era when there wasn't really great TV for wrestling, and they were giving you a reason to tune into the show, be it the just two hosses fighting or the slimy, conniving piece of shit heel falling in love in quotation marks with Vicky Guerrero and keep screwing the Undertaker out of the title, and you want to see the Undertaker get his comeuppance, and then he introduces the Hell's Gate. They have this really good match at WrestleMania 24, and the Edge as a heel was such a good heel to the Undertaker's face, and they were such different characters, but they really played it up. But I know Batista was a very niche pick, but I think he's worthy of a spot in the top 3.
Top three? I don't know. We were talking about some others. Brock Lesnar, I think. The feud with Brock.
I don't think Brock's even in the top 5 because the Undertaker only won
That's
one match against him, and it was a shoddy finish, and every other time Brock just destroyed him.
And
But
Mankind.
rivalry doesn't have to incorporate back and forth though. And I will say that just because like if not for Kane, I definitely would have chose Lesnar on the note of the fact that you talk about Kane humanizing Taker, Brock made Taker look human.
Yep.
And
Right. And that takes
that
consideration, but it's just their feuds never really to me personally, they never really meant anything. The only time that it meant something, I watched WrestleMania 30 live with my close friend Alex. Shout out to Alex. And we made a joke. I was like, let's bet on the matches. And he's like, all right. I was like, $100 the Taker wins. He's like,
famous
that's not
last
fair.
words.
And then F5 number 3, 1, 2, 3. Our jaws were on the floor. We did not say anything for 2 minutes, and Alex goes, that's not supposed to happen. We didn't know what the fucking thing.
It wasn't.
It was legit the most shocking thing I've ever seen in wrestling. And I think for that reason, you can make the argument for Lesnar, but I think in all the other aspects of it, it really just it just doesn't make sense to me.
Wow.
It helped bring Lesnar to another level in 2002, but in 2014, 2015, yeah, you could make the argument it made Lesnar even more of a draw with him beating the streak, but it's just, to me,
what I thought was really gripping back when you're alluding to like their first feud, after Brock beat Taker in the cell the first time, they had a promo out in the middle of the ring, and it was really kind of jarring to see Taker to that level, right? But he effectively told Brock, like, man, if this were just a couple of years ago, I'd have beaten your ass. Like, is this old man Taker we're seeing here? Like, is Taker admitting to some vulnerability? But then Brock too is like giving him credit, being like, hey man, because he was fucking around, not literally fucking around, but playing mind games, weirdly enough, with the Undertaker by threatening Sarah by, and I believe she was pregnant at the time. Just getting up, like caressing her stomach, saying life's a bitch, and getting in Taker's head and beating Taker in his own game. And Brock admitted, he's like, yeah, I mean, I'm facing you. I needed an edge. So it was a very, very interesting dynamic in that moment because you had two guys who like were destructive forces of nature, but also had respect for each other. But then, yeah, you lead that into the feuds that they had, 10 years later, and you still see a lot of that. And Brock was still like whipping the piss out of Taker. And I don't know, it was fascinating to see when you have someone who is such a monolith in The Undertaker, who has such a very clear Achilles heel in a guy like Brock Lesnar, no matter what era you find him in.
I think in the interest of time here, we're going to have some challenges. If we harken back to a list that WWE themselves published, they had Kane as number 1. They had Batista as number 10, but we're not going to hit you too hard with that one. But Pierce.
I completely disagree with that, but WWE probably put fucking Great Khali as number 2.
No, Great Khali's not even on the list. So shows how right you are. But anyways, I think at the end of the day, The Undertaker had a number of feuds that were very notable in wrestling history. And
we didn't even talk about Mankind. We didn't talk
about Mankind. Didn't talk about Triple H. Well, very little about Triple H. Didn't talk about Randy Orton. That was a huge feud. We didn't talk about Ministry Taker versus Austin.
Right.
We didn't talk about his feud with Vince at the tail end of American Badass. All right. It was his first feud, one of his first notable feuds with Jake the Snake.
Make the argument for AJ Styles too. I mean, their feud going into the end of Undertaker's career, AJ Styles was handpicked by the Undertaker, and I think that should be part of the consideration too.
Yeah, that Boneyard match is another match that'll actually age very well, even though yes, it's cinematic, edited, but
so fun.
It's entertaining. It's fun.
Bray Wyatt too. The only reason I didn't want to bring up Bray Wyatt is because Bray never got a leg up on it. Could never get one over on the Undertaker.
I mean, that's just Bray's career as a whole.
That's just Vince not understanding what he had. Rest in peace, Bray. You were
rest in peace, Bray. Right. I want to make sure we have some time to cover Halloween Havoc, spooky season, if we can. Are you guys okay with that?
Let's run
If
it.
you were curious, I just wanted to say, because I brought this up too, because I, wanted to ask an AI, since we've kind of been getting this human element into it, um, asking Chat GPT who was Undertaker's greatest rival. And Chat GPT says the Undertaker's greatest rival is often considered to be Shawn Michaels. Their legendary matches, especially at WrestleMania, showcase both wrestlers' incredible storytelling and in-ring ability. The rivalry added depth to the Undertaker's character and solidified both as icons in professional wrestling. Other notable rivals include Kane and Triple H, but the Undertaker-Michaels feud stands out for its impact and drama. Thought you might be interested in that one, Don.
Chat GPT doesn't even like Batista at all.
Well, they just rekindled their feud this past week because Batista called Donald Trump a bunch of names, and The Undertaker had Donald Trump on his podcast.
Man,
So
I don't want to spend very much time on that subject, but can we differentiate, like, as much as I think, some of these people might say some really stupid things, can we differentiate careers from political opinions? Like,
yeah,
just because one of
again,
these
The
guys
the
might say
nuanced
something you don't
feelings.
agree with doesn't mean their whole career was garbage as a result of that. Like, it's so dumb. The dialogue.
And the
nuanced
Undertaker would
feelings.
agree with you, Don.
Yeah.
Taker would agree.
It,
He even said, he's like, I miss when politics wasn't so hot. I miss when people could just look you in the eye, shake your hand, and have different opinions, like, or something to that effect, before politics got hot.
Back to our Chris Benoit debate, where it's like,
It's a little different. That's murder.
well, but this is my thing. It's this incredible performer, but also fuck that guy. You can have multiple different feelings about this person. It's the same with the Undertaker. Who gives a fuck what his political?
See, there's nuance to that. Like, I mean, in fairness, it's like the thing with living in a democratic society is you are free to have your choice. And while some people might say you're a horrible person for having that choice, it's still yours to make. I want to make sure we're very clear that we are not pointing out any sort of political allegiance on this podcast. That's not what we're trying to do here. But let the guy do his damn show.
Let's all, like, you don't have to love the person and you don't have to love their political opinions, but just leave it there. Just move on with your day. It's not going to change anything.
Nope. All right. Halloween Havoc this Sunday. And where is it? Hershey, Pennsylvania. There's 5 matches on the card. They all have stipulations as per normal Halloween Havoc. They brought back the whole the wheel that Johnny Gargano really hates, but they brought it back to set up the stipulations for the 5 matches that are currently scheduled. I think there's only going to be these 5. So, first match for the NXT Women's North American Championship, Kalani Jordan will be defending against one of Jacy Jayne, Fallon Henley, or Jasmine Nix. That is TBD, and the stipulation will be the spinner's choice. So, TBD stipulation, TBD opponent. Do you guys have any thoughts on this one? We'll do this more like rapid fire, but
Jordan retains. Simple as that.
I mean,
Go ahead, Brandon.
Sorry, go ahead. No, you were making a point. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you.
She's still getting her feet. They're trying to build this title up, so her continuing her reign. She's holding on to it for Delta or whatever her new name is now, I think. And I'm sure it'll be a fun match, but yeah, it'll be a fun match, but champ retains.
Yeah, me personally, I would love to see. I mean, I'm sure it won't be Jacy Jayne. I'm sure they're going to give some shine to either Jasmine Nix or Fallon Henley, which deserving, right, in both cases. I would like to see one of them do it just to kind of maybe create something interesting, an interesting dynamic within, what's their name? Fatal Influence?
Fatal Influence, yeah.
Right? I could see Kalani Jordan just because they're trying to push the title and her to, higher heights. That being said, like Jacy Jayne's also been overdue. She's been putting work into her character, and I feel like she's about due for something within a singles role, and then sets up well for when you have Gigi Dolan coming back as well. That's just me being fantasy booker. In reality,
Come on,
it's
come on, come
likely
on,
to
come
see
on.
Kalani
Rapid
join her team.
fire.
What's that?
Rapid
You
fire.
want
Come
some?
on.
This is
Yeah.
It's
hot
hard
takes
for
part
Brandon
two.
to go rapid
Let's
fire when he
go.
likes his tangents.
Let's go.
Oh, my bad. All right, Kalani.
Kalani. All right. I think all three of these.
Next.
Yeah, I think all three of these women are talented. I think Jasmine Nix is probably the one that gets the shine on, but Fallon Henley is, I would think, the most talented of the three. Kalani retains, though I would like to see Fallon win if possible. I don't think it's going to happen. Next up, Ridge Holland versus Andre Chase in an ambulance match.
Uh, I don't know. I think this could really go either way. I know it probably makes sense for the babyface to go over, but I kind of like to see Rich Holland win.
I think Ridge Holland needs the win.
Mm-hmm. He's got a beard now. Did you see that?
He does have a beard now.
Yeah, ambulance matches are hit or miss, and it makes a lot of sense for this feud. So
Andre
hopefully
Chase
it's a
is
hit.
sneaky good though. Like he's a very sneaky good wrestler that is caught in a very polarizing gimmick. I think his gimmick is very fun, but he's a very good wrestler if given the time. Ridge, if they're trying to push him as a monster, he probably needs the win here. So I'm going to say Ridge.
Yeah. Chase is actually, I found this out, was one half of the Bravado brothers from the indie days back in like the mid 2000s, early mid 2000s. So, I mean, yeah, super talented, but I mean, they're going to, push Ridge based on the fact that he hurts people in real life and in kayfabe.
Yep.
So
Unfortunately.
Ridge wins the day here.
Next up, a tag team match with Roxanne Perez and Cora Jade teaming up against Julia and Stephanie. How do we pronounce her last name? I feel like in my brain I say it wrong. Vacker.
I've heard Vaquer and I've also heard like Vacher. So I don't know what to
Okay, I
believe.
don't know what the exact. I'm gonna have to listen a
Oh,
little bit more
sure.
closely when they introduce her. But yeah, I'll chime in here, man. These two, Julia and Stephanie, they are stars in the making. They look so damn good in that ring already. And
Mm-hmm.
the sky's the limit for both of them. Roxanne, we already know, is a star. Cora Jade was destined to be a star. She's really got screwed over by injuries over the last couple years. Hopefully, she can stay healthy for an extended period. This match should be fun. I think Julia and Stephanie win this one.
Yeah, I agree. I hope everybody just gets their time to shine. I would expect I mean it could be, the descent of Julia and Stephanie, because both of them want the title. That could lead to something, but I don't see either of them taking a loss. If any of them do, it's probably Stephanie because Julia did just lose the other week. But I think the baby faces take the win.
Yeah, I see Cora eating the pin in this match.
You think Cora? I actually see Roxanne eating the pin in this match.
I'd see
I mean,
Roxanne.
if Roxanne ate the pin, it'd be very interesting because then whoever pins her is, has strongest case of being number one contender, right? And
Mm-hmm.
you talk about descent between Stephanie and Julia. Well, there's your spark right there.
Yeah.
And then you throw in Zariah, which who knows, like they're already talking about her factoring in to the main event women's picture as well. So,
Their
throw her in the
roster for
mix
women
somewhere.
is loaded.
Mm-hmm.
It is incredible
Yeah,
the amount of women's talent they have in NXT.
yeah, it's insane, and it's only going to get better.
Yep.
Like we're just seeing the start of it, I'm sure.
Next up, in a tables, ladders, and scares match, which can only be won by pinfall. It's a little strange for that type of match. Tony D'Angelo defends the North American Championship against Ope-Eh. This was originally supposed to be a ladders match, but after the beatdown that happened on NXT just last night, Tony demanded it to be a pinfall deciding match, which Ava granted. A little strange. I have no idea who wins this match.
Tony D'Angelo.
Why?
Yeah, I think you see. Oh,
I think Oba's onto the main roster, or at least they're gonna, hide him until
The
the
Rumble?
Rumble. And I mean, or he could go on to the NXT World Title picture. It really doesn't matter. Sky is the limit for Oba. The dude will be a star, and he doesn't need the NXT North American title. He broke the record. I think it needs to be a definitive pinfall loss. I don't think he loses any mystique with that because he didn't really, he didn't. It was a flash roll up that beat him for the title. It wasn't, he got hit with whatever the Don's finish is. That I think it's a DDT. I might be wrong, but like, I think it's Don's time to rule the NXT North American landscape.
Brandon?
And I think when you factor in that now that D'Angelo's emboldened and he has equalizers around him, you'd be forgiven to think that, D'Angelo's going to come out with a win on this one. And I mean, we all know that there's nothing left for Oba to accomplish in the North American title picture. And we're going to talk about what's going to be happening. Whoever wins the main event, right? Post Trick, post Ego, whenever they get past this, they're going to need somebody to feud with. And I mean, it seems in either case to be obvious of who's going to be stepping up to the main event scene. That to me is Oba.
Yeah,
I don't think he's main event. I don't think main roster. I don't think he's main roster ready yet. I think he still could use a little bit of in-ring polish. Personally, his character is there, and there's plenty to work with that. But he could definitely stand to benefit from some main event time in NXT before. You want to make sure you're bringing that guy up right because he is the future. He's surprised everybody by winning the title right away. Sorry, I'm carrying on again. Try and make it short.
I don't know if you could hear me sigh in the background or what.
All right, speed it up, Brandon.
Sorry. He's the future, and you want to bring him up right. I'll cut it at that.
All right. Main event in a Devil's Playground match for the NXT Championship. Trick Williams defends against Ethan Page. The hottest rivalry in professional wrestling right now due to their diss tracks that they've just dropped on each other. Ethan Page's was quite good for Ethan Page. Not good in general, but good for Ethan Page. Man, Ethan Page is so good.
Like I said, gonna main event WrestleMania one day.
He might. He's a very good promo. His promo last night was very good. Very good. It made Trick look real bad.
And I think that him and CM Punk are going to have a match on NXT TV.
They've been teasing it for sure. It'll be interesting if they actually do it on NXT as like a big NXT match, or maybe they may eventually bring it up to the main roster. Because I can't imagine Ethan Page is going to be on NXT for much longer. Like, you immediately put him into the title picture. He's clearly ring ready. He's clearly mic ready. Like, Trick Williams wins here.
Pro, and he's gonna go probably for 17 more years. Like, he's that fucking good.
He is good. Trick Williams wins. I don't think that's really up for debate here. Because that's where Oba goes. But anything you guys wanted to add to that, or?
I think Trick wins. Yeah, I think Trick wins. I think Page goes to the main roster. I think there's plenty of potential for a carryover feud with Page and Punk on the main roster. If Punk doesn't immediately go chasing titles.
Well, saying Punk versus Gunther is going to be the match at Survivor Series.
That's way too soon. I don't like it.
Somebody said,
it's way too soon. You don't even know. First of all, you don't even know if that's right, and second of all, even if it is, that's way too soon.
If it is right, I'm just going to tell you I told you so.
Great. And if it's wrong,
then I'm wrong, and that's okay. Right. But I want to tell you I told you so.
Okay. Well, cross that bridge when you get there, please. That's it for tonight's show. We'll be watching Halloween Havoc. At least I'll be watching Halloween Havoc. Sunday nights are much easier for me to watch PLE, so I'm actually kind of glad that this one's going to be Sunday night.
I think I should be able to watch it. I'm got some family in town for Friday. We're going out to dinner and then trick or treat with my niece and nephew on Saturday. And then
wait, you guys trick or treat on Saturday? You don't trick or treat on Halloween?
No.
What?
It's always the weekend.
What?
Before or the weekend of.
Is that an American thing?
Yes.
You don't go out on the
mean,
31st.
No.
What the fuck? That is news to me. Wow.
the 31st doesn't really fall right very often.
It
Like it's
doesn't
always
have
just
to.
for
You
me.
just
It's
go
always
out
the
from
closest
like
weekend.
6 to 8 o'clock. Like you start trick or treating at 6, you come back home by 8. Doesn't
Yeah, but
interrupt
then
Yeah,
you were a
you.
kid. You get all
where
hyped up on the candy, but on a
Yeah,
school
we're
it's
going
night,
one day a
4 to
year.
6 on a Saturday. So
That's
it
so
makes more sense to me.
strange. No, Canada, we just do it on the 31st. Weekday, weekend. That's weird. I don't know how it works now post pandemic. I mean, I'm obviously too old to know that, and I live in a condo, but huh. Okay,
Mm.
well, interesting. Um, Next week we'll talk about what happened on Halloween Havoc. We'll also talk about Crown Jewel, Pierce's favorite PLE of the year.
I don't wanna. That's the real spookiest fucking PLE of the year.
And then throughout November, we're going to have some content coming out. We're talking about that today. We'll be looking to go every week in November, just because there'll be some good things to talk about, and we might dial it down a little bit come holiday season into December. But who wants to shill the pod again before we go?
Well, follow us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. You can see Brandon's wonderful reels that he's starting. You can see his beautiful pumpkin. You can see our new logo. We're still might be reworking the logo.
I haven't
Check
got
out our
around
new
to that
logo.
yet. Sorry, but it
Um,
looks better.
it actually looks like people instead of AI mush, which we liked the Ope-Eh of it, so we kept that part. But now it looks like us, kind of, and I believe that's it. Brandon, you got anything else?
no, we pretty much said it all.
Send us home.
Well,
I mean,
well, I'll take us home. Thanks for stopping in the Ope 3-Way. Have a beer on us. We'll see you next time.